Veterans, KKV employees, everybody watching here at the Veteran Lang YouTube channel, welcome to a special video. I am still, and always will be, your friendly VA accredited Matt Lang, here with another topic for you. I know, things look different. I got my newly made veteran, or not Veteran Lang, but Lang's Legal Veteran Advocate t-shirt on today. I want to thank the individual who made those shirts for us, along with some other shirts that we ordered. I didn't get permission to give out their name, but I want to really throw that thank you out to them. They did a wonderful job. But once I have permission to share with you that person's name, I will do so. But I also want to thank NOVA, National Organization of Veterans Advocates, for putting on the recent conference that they did, getting us all advocates together, providing the updates, the education, the resources that they did, the opportunity to network. A lot of hard work by a lot of individuals there. It turned out really great. And I don't just say that about things. If it was bad, I'd let you know. I've done it before in the past with conferences and meetings, and maybe that's why sometimes my boss won't talk to me. But anywho, that's a different story. Hey, but it was great. I appreciate everybody at the conference there who worked really hard to put all that on. I appreciate all the advocates that were there. The Opportunity Network was just amazing. But yeah, I'm here. I'm here in the office. It's a Saturday. I'm sitting at the reception area here. You can see the signs behind me. Like I said, I'm really dressed down. Sometimes we got to do work on Saturday to help veterans out, to serve you veterans the best we can. We do find the time to rest and relax as well, so we can be refreshed to give you that top-notch service that we know how. But sometimes Saturdays come calling, and this is where I've got to be. So this is where I am. I'm finishing up some work here, but as I finish up this work, I'm thinking about that conference, and I want to share a video with you because there's so many things that I'm thinking about at the conference, but there's one thing that is really sticking with me, and I really feel it's good to share this thought and this experience with everybody out there, because I think it really goes to our goal of trying to make a process smoother between veterans and VA alike when it comes to getting those benefits to the veterans that they ultimately deserve. It's really intriguing for me to see things from different perspectives. Because now, as I've mentioned before, I've got years of experience in the VA. VSR, RVSR, supervisor, attorney advisor with the board, detailed to train, and I had other training and mentoring opportunities, and detailed to be that second person in charge at a national call center, one of the largest at the time, and probably the largest now. So many other things. One of those details really stood out on me that I had in those experiences from the VA. When a certain speaker got up to talk about a certain topic. And that's what's sticking with me, because it's this topic I think is good to share from the two experience levels now and the points of view that I hold. Because remember, perspective is important when it comes to education, especially if we're going to problem solve an issue and try to make a plausible solution work. We can't just put on blinders and walk straight into the wall and go, hey, we made it that far. I think what we have to do is we have to look at the different perspectives, take those blinders off, and really understand what things look like from more than one angle. And that's what I've been doing. And so I'm going to share this video with all of you. It's going to be a probably really rough video. Unlike the ones I got teed up for you that still have my little bit longer hair here right before I cut it. But bear with me a little bit here if you would. And let's go open that curtain up quite a bit more than what I have from the experience from inside the VA. I may make a few people cringe. But I think I'm going to make them cringe in a good way. Totally in a good way. Not a bad way, but a good way. And a good way to help better the process. So let's do it. So here's what I was doing. Here's the conference. Presenter's doing a great job. Presenter has definitely got their stuff together. They are going through it. We are still learning some stuff that was coming down while they're talking. Fantastic. Freaking fantastic. But they wanted to give updates that involved VBMS. Now, VBMS, veterans, for those who don't know, is Veterans Benefits Management System. This is the electronic system that handles your electronic VA file, claims file. So if you file a claim for compensation, let's say all those documents are going to be in this computer system here. This is the system that's going to be used to develop your claim, the system that's going to be used beside your claim, and the system that sends you letters, and the system that likely pays you. Now, there's other systems in the background that are probably still working, but ultimately this is your big system handling the heaviest of loads. Here's what they're talking about. One of the upcoming changes that were going to be applied to the system, to VBMS, included the functionality for when a DBQ from the VA, only a VA DBQ, not ones that you're allowed to go get on your private providers or physicians, examiners, veterans, only the ones from the VA. I'll leave any opinions there because I said that was one of my things this year is I'm trying to not be as opinionated in these videos and be more educational. I'll let you decide how you want to take that. But there was definitely some concerns. I won't say some, a lot of concerns with that in the room of 500 advocates or so. Definitely some concerns, but that was the idea, that right now the system is going to take from the VA examinations, the DBQs that come from the VA exams, whether they be contract, be from the VA facilities. These DBQs have been designed with checkboxes and questions that really line up with the diagnostic codes inside of the CFR that ultimately help give or guide evaluations. Now, what the DBQs don't do, as we all probably know, is they don't always give you all the information to consider that's required by law. Now, they give you actually maybe some more outside of those checkboxes, but we find that that's not necessarily always considered like it's supposed to be. So while the DBQ is a great tool to help line things up with the diagnostic code, we were finding that the update that was going to be pushed, or we were being told here at this moment was going to be pushed, would take that DBQ and only look at the checkboxes of, say, what's in the diagnostic codes, the symptoms, the range of motions, etc. It was then going to take it and plug it into the system, the VBMS system, which inside the VBMS system, what I was familiar with before I left was what they know called an evaluation builder, which ultimately is just a bunch of checkboxes that line up with the DBQ, which line up with the CFR. And once you check those boxes off of the DBQ, it generates the evaluation. And that's why veterans, when you get granted, you see usually just that calculator is what you're actually looking at, believe it or not. You're looking at what that calculator spits out a decision. Very interesting for me from a different perspective. And from the perspective of an advocate, just like everybody else, there's a lot of concerns, like I said there, because the issue is as this does this, we're not addressing now the other evidence in the file. We're not addressing the private DBQs. We're not addressing the private medical evidence. We're not addressing the VA medical evidence outside of the exam. We're not addressing lay statements, buddy statements, STRs. So while it is great that is generating over to give an evaluation, now, what this is exactly going to look like, I don't know for sure, but that's what was being understood here. Was ultimately the computer was going to be made to create the decision. So the question became, what about the human element? What about the VA employee? What about the RVSR, the DRO, the VSR, everybody involved in the claims process? Well, it was going to leave, as I understood, a box that said yes or no to be checked by the user, the RVSR DRO, for example, as to whether it was verified that the symptoms at least came over right, or the decision was right, perhaps. Very interesting. Very interesting. How would we know it was verified besides the click of the box? How would we know if it wasn't discussed? The evidence wasn't discussed like it's supposed to be. There's so many questions came up. Very good questions. The idea of just checking a box isn't what the intent of the law is. And that's, I think, where a lot of heartache was, because we didn't feel as advocates you could really remove the human element from the process like it appeared was going to happen. Maybe it won't. It's just an assumption at this point because we haven't seen it happen. But while I'm sitting there as an advocate thinking all these same things, listening to all these concerns and questions be brought up, I was brought back to a time where I worked in the VA. Probably nearly 15 years ago, roughly. Maybe 14. Not a mathematician, I'm an attorney. But somewhere around that line. I was an RVSR. I was an RVSR. I got the opportunity to help roll out or play a part of the rollout in VBMS. Part of that included testing the program, providing feedback to the developers, to doing level 1 IT work, to fix errors, report those errors, to even at one point sit in a closed room with my other fellow VA employees who were tasked to do the same. They called us superusers, VBMS superusers. I don't know if they were trying to make me feel good. Maybe they weren't, but if they were, it worked. The title was pretty cool. I always want to put my cape on, my tights on, and okay, we'll keep the jokes at a minimum. But we sat in a room. We sat in a room with a few of these developers. We got to express what we were seeing on the floor. We got to express what others were concerned about. We got to give the feedback of what we were hearing, what we were seeing, what may be better for the system, what we really needed from the system. It was a great conversation. But in that conversation, as I'm sitting there now listening to a conference about 14, 15 years later, I was being brought back to one part of that conversation. DBQs and VBMS. Now keep in mind, at the time, contractors were not this big thing that they are. DBQs were still fairly new. But the idea still existed. The idea of having the system, VBMS system at the time, or at some point in its life, be able to read a DBQ, to take from those checkboxes that lined up with the diagnostic code, to feed it into the VBMS system, perhaps through the evaluation builder portion, and ultimately make a decision for the VA in order to speed up the claims. Because remember, VA has been scrutinized ruthlessly over the years for not being fast enough, for backlogs. And especially at that time, solutions were being really looked for to get those backlog down. So that was the thought as I experienced it. How can we just get the claim out the door faster? A lot of concerns at that time, I remember. A lot of concerns, and I realized that the same concerns are being asked today, presently, in this conference. So have we addressed them? It doesn't appear so. I don't know all the details. I don't know all the meetings. I don't know what's all been talked about recently, but I'm going to tell you that as I pull back this curtain and probably make a couple people cringe, and if there's anybody who wants to correct me on stuff I don't know or add to this, please do, especially in the comments. Let us all get it around this and understand this better from different perspectives so we can help to make the process smoother. But we were talking 14 or 15 years ago about a system that wasn't even fully developed or barely developed, that ultimately the goal was to have it read a DBQ, generate a decision. The concerns were the human element. What happens to the employee? What happens to VA? What happens to the rules that are no longer looked at? What happens when the decisions are bad and veterans are feeling the results of additional errors, perhaps, and wrong decisions. Well, the questions are being asked from so many levels, from a veteran, from the effects of the veteran, the effects of the VA employees, the effects of so many things. And those questions are still being asked now by, in front of me, not by VA, because that's not who was in front of me. Not saying that they're not asking those questions still, but now by other advocates. I find extremely intriguing because I realized that advocate in front of me presenting this didn't have that knowledge. That person wasn't in that room. They didn't know that these questions had been asked years ago and apparently are still being asked today, 14, 15 years ago. Government, I know, is supposed to work slow, but damn, that's slow? We need to fix a process. We can't ignore the problems. Because here's what my professional experience and opinion is starting to realize is going to come to light. And I may be totally wrong. I'm going to do my best to stay off the soapbox as much as I can, but we're going to touch it. I don't want to give a lot of opinions because that was one of my New Year's goals, to keep a lot of my opinion and stuff out of these videos. But understand that through 14 or 15 years, the VA has created a system that they already planned to have DBQs automatically feed into and ultimately draft a decision that didn't consider all the evidence. It's the idea that the solution was speed and not quality based. Now, whether the quality has been looked at fully or not, I don't know, because it would seem to me from my experience inside and now outside that VA employees have been trained to, over the last 14 or 15 years, be the computer. And ultimately, over that period of time, test the theory and the workings and get people used to and familiar with the idea of just clicking buttons and generating decisions that don't review all the evidence, that doesn't follow all the rules or laws, that are full of errors. Well, if that's the case, and if we ever do reach that point of making a smaller government, I guess we're going to have more errors and probably less VA employees. Because the computer is now going to do what has been shown capable. But I don't know. That's my professional outlook and opinion on that. But ultimately what I wanted to do today was share you these thoughts. Mainly share you the perceptions, the different angles of where I've been, what I've seen, and what I'm seeing now, because I want you to understand, to the best ability that I'm able to do here on this platform, what some of those problems are in the system, because I want us to be able to learn from each other, come together and go, okay, veteran Lang, accredited attorney Matthew Lang, we see what you're saying, but maybe you're missing some of the pieces of the puzzle. Let me fill you in. Let's show you another perspective, and I'm all open, and that's what I want this to do, is create conversation to help solve the problem. Because if we have more errors, we end up with decisions that are just computer generated, that don't consider the evidence. I don't see where we're helping speed things up or helping any backlog. I see again where we're moving the backlog to a different location. Because what you're going to have happen here is advocates like myself now have to take and turn our attention to the Board of Veterans Appeals. Veterans, your claims ultimately have to take longer because I can't argue with the computer who's only checking boxes. I now need that judge and attorney to actually review the evidence and make the decision, if that's what we come down to. But there's only so many people who maybe had the opportunity, the funds, even the desire, whatever it may be, to attend law school to become an attorney and then an administrative judge at the board. See where that's going? We want to fix the problem. So 14 or 15 years ago, the same questions are being asked. Let's see if we can answer them today, because I'm not so sure they got answered. What do we need to do? Well, I'm going to leave you there with that. I just had to share the thought. I had to get it off my mind and put it out there in the open, because I realize there's an experience I have that others may not have. And if we're going to fix a system, I've got to share that experience. I've got to crack open that curtain a little bit more, and give you that peek into all that experience, so that we can sit here and make a process smoother together. All right. Well, you know what? It's about dinner time for me. I'm going to leave you for some food. First, I gotta go shopping. Who likes to shop anyways on a weekend? Oh, there's always so many people. We'll see if I survive. If I do, well, I'd say you see me next Tuesday, but that video's already been prepared, and I'll be in my polo and my uncut hair. But we'll do more videos, veterans, VA. Let's all get together. Let's figure this out. Let's advocate for a better system. And that's my plea, to end this video with you and say, I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your weekend.